All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the last session of the conference. We made it. It's a good feeling, at least for me. I hope everybody's enjoyed themselves. We greatly appreciate all the time and effort that you put into this, all your participation, your questions. It's really helped, I think, a lot of individuals grow as subject matter experts or as individuals who provide services to our veterans and their family members. So I hope you are getting a lot out of this, because I know I am. I've taken a lot of good notes that have really helped me when I communicate with our partnership throughout the state, to really take all of your information, all your feedback, and ensure that we are messaging everything appropriately to provide the best amount of information possible to help you do your jobs effectively and efficiently. My name is Paul Cruz. I'm one of the program managers here with your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, and I have the pleasure of introducing Robin Lang, who will be our next presenter for today. I will not steal any of her thunder, give her the opportunity to tell you a little about herself, but we hope you enjoyed the session, and if you need anything, please let me know. It is all yours, ma'am.
Yay, thank you. So if you have a smartphone, I would appreciate it if you could click on that and you'll have an interactive session here.
Okay.
So if you have a smartphone, go ahead and click the QR code. It'll allow you to interact. The other thing is, once you get in, you'll see a little button that says questions. If you have a question at any time, you can ask and raise your hand, but if you have a question, sometimes people are a little too embarrassed to ask. They're nervous about asking a question. If you have any questions, you can ask them anonymously. Just make sure your name isn't in the little box there, but you can ask them, and then other people in the audience, you can upvote, and then if we're running out of time towards the end, we can select the ones that are voted the highest. The other thing, you'll see little, I can just stand over here, you'll see the little brown paper baggies and a white piece of paper. I thought there'd be more people here. So I spread them out. So if you can grab one, we'll do a little interactive activity with that when it comes up. So, did everyone have a chance to do that? Okay. So, good afternoon. My name is Robin Lang. My pronouns are she, her. I'm so excited to be able to talk about this today. I recently did this with my new assistant director and had 45 minutes and we're supposed to talk for 30 and then 15 minutes of questions, and after an hour we got kicked out of the room, so I could talk a long time on this stuff. So we're going to be booking through this material. If everyone seems to be comfortable with what we're on, we can move along after that. What is this doing? So, this is the first time that I have, this is the first time I'm using this software in this setting, and for some reason it jumped to slide, to the end of the slide deck, because it's idiotic in that way. Let me go back to the beginning. There, now we're back. Slide one. Okay. This is the part where you get to enter your information. Before, we used to go around the room, it took a lot of time, people would say their name, all that good stuff. Now, just enter it on your phone. It'll show up on the screen, and then I have a record of who is here. And then I can track who's had this workshop, because there's something I can give you at the end of it that puts you in an allyship program. Good stuff. So, has anyone had an opportunity to put their information in?
Working on it. It says
Faster,
right
faster.
here.
We got material to get through, people.
Just kidding.
It used to take 20 minutes to go around the room, so it's not an issue. It's just awkward. I should have put music on or something so we're not standing here staring at each other.
It says write your idea.
The software doesn't let you change that, and it's a mandatory field. You can put whatever you want in there. if you don't have a phone, you can just pop in afterwards and I can take your name and information down. I still see people typing. Is there anyone who needs more time?
It doesn't like me. It's, I don't know, I pushed the submit and then it went back to the put it in again.
Are you one of those green message kind of people? Or are you a blue message person? The people who know you, you know. You know. Do you have an iPhone or do you have a...
I have an iPhone.
Oh, okay, well, you're cool then. Yes.
My QR code disappeared.
Okay, let me see. I think I can put it on the screen.
That's cool. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see anyone else typing. Are we good to go? Next one. Thank you. That was much faster than going around the room. And the introverts in the room are saying, thank you for not making me go around the room. This is another thing we would do when we go around the room. This helps me figure out where to focus or not focus. I'm going to cover the material anyways, but if I can see what you guys are looking forward to learning about, or what you think you're going to learn about, this helps me work my way through the system. And for the people watching the video, sorry, you can get out your phone and stare at it while we're doing this.
That's cool.
Very cool software.
When it works.
Yeah, when it works. We use this for another meeting that I do with another state, and it works really well when we do this together. And then, like I said, when I'm done with it, I can hit print, and the whole thing will print out, and I'll have a record of what happened. I still see some folks typing, but I think we're about ready to wrap up. Does anyone need more time? Okay, so looking at this, I think we've got just about everything except Julie. I'm not sure I'm going to cover Julie.
Not capitalized, so it wasn't me. I was confused by that too. I'm like, somebody put my name, and it wasn't me.
Would anyone like to help out with all things? Oh, okay, never mind. I think I got it. Perhaps it's rainbow. All things under the rainbow. Okay, looking at this, we are definitely going to cover all of these things today, and some more stuff. So thank you for doing that. It lets other people get a feel for what other people are expecting, and like I said, it lets me know what folks are expecting to learn today. So what are we going to learn about today? Should be 3 things with the bonus 4th thing. So we'll learn about the LGBTQ veteran experience, give you an idea of what LGBTQ veterans go through. Your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs LGBTQ program, a little about me, so you can say you met a trans person, you know a trans person. And then the backside, the inclusive practices, which is usually everyone's favorite part. So I'll try and get through the other stuff quickly. So for this part, we're going to go over some group norms. I know we're just going to be here a short amount of time, but I think it's important to go over this because of the type of workshop that this will be. So feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for. Ask all the questions you want. If I don't know an answer, I'll go find the answer somewhere. The next one, the Vegas rule. This is slightly modified. But Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But in here, it is possible that with these topics, people are going to share some highly personal information. If you can, take away what you learn, but not the personal information. So leave that here, take away the lessons with you.
Sorry, can I add one thing? Just as a reminder, we are recording these sessions so that they can be viewed in the public for individuals who want to watch it. So as Robin just mentioned, she highly encourages sharing stories, but if you don't want to share a story that you would not want to put on the interweb, I would recommend you please do not do so. I just want to make sure everybody understood that, just so that you are aware that we will be posting a recorded version of this session. Thank you.
And of course, we could.
No, it's cool. Eat into my tongue.
Yeah, we could, of course, turn it off too towards the end. So once kind of we get through some of the discussionary points, I'll be more than happy to shut it off, and then that way we can have the real talk and the real discussion. So.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, what's the next one? It's okay to laugh. Some people are going to hear some funny things today. It's okay to laugh. And honestly, it shows that I haven't killed your soul yet. So you're going home. That's a good thing. If you like to share, that is absolutely wonderful. I love when people share. But please make space for other people to share. Don't be that one person in the room that everyone's staring at like, oh my God, would you shut up? It's good to share, but share the space as well. And again, at the end, if you say something in the beginning and later on you decide, you know what, that's not something I think anymore. It's okay to change your mind. That's absolutely fine. My mom, my biggest fan, she changes her mind on things all the time when she learns more about it. That is absolutely fine. That's the point of coming to stuff like this, is to learn more and change your views and perceptions. So you can look over these. We'll go over these individually next. It's something I like to start off with, but over the next couple slides, I'm going to ask you to put some words on the screen. I'm not going to ask you to share anything that you don't want to. If you don't want to share anything, you don't have to. But as we go through the questions, think about this. The idea is to think about sort of your first ideas and perceptions of LGBTQ people, and then we'll talk about maybe how they were presented and maybe how that shaped your thinking. So I'm going to run through some questions. If you have your phones ready again, that's the QR code. If you're already there, that's fine. Just put it up. So go ahead and take a look at this one. When's the first time you can remember learning that some people are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or queer? All right, still see somebody typing up there? So it looks like for most folks it was pretty early on. I see this 5 years old. We'll come back to that later. That last one, yes, that is quite common, that not having the language or knowing what that was. Is there anyone else still working? And yes, I brought the wrong glasses, so I have to keep, I can't see anybody when I'm like this. I have some progressives, but I don't know where they went. I am a champion at losing things. I have like 15 ear tags. There's one on everything. I should have an air tag on me, because I'm myself. thank you for that one. Gonna move on to the next one. So where did most of the influence of your initial impressions or understanding of LGBTQ folks come from? I see a lot of church. Okay. And I also see some TV stuff. I see some nice experiences though. So for me growing up, where I saw this was on TV, and I'm not as young as who I think I am. So when I watched TV, there were not good portrayals of LGBTQ people on TV. Folks usually played either the fool, the comic relief, or something like that, or the rapist, or the serial killer, or something like that. So not a great portrayal there. I saw church come up a lot. Would anyone be willing to share their experiences of what sort of things were learned there? If that's the first kind of place where you learned about it, what kinds of things did you learn about? Yes, please.
I'll share. I grew up in a very religious, strict household. As a matter of fact, I am a preacher's kid, so my life was always under the magnifying glass. But yeah, gay was a bad word. You didn't talk about gay, and much less be gay. I grew up in the South as well, so strike two. So yeah, discovering myself as a person of the LGBTQ community was very difficult for a long time. Yep, so I'll leave it at that, but yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. I could also see that folks from like maybe my daughter's generation have a different experience than I did about, I mean, my kids at school, my son joined the GSA just to be a good ally. And that was, it's a thing now that is just, it's at not every school, I know that. We're on the west side, or I live on the west side, but so it's a little more progressive, I guess, in some states, but it's much more common now. Just find it an interesting juxtaposition from when I went to school. And if you wouldn't mind sharing maybe how your views have changed over time. I'm seeing a lot of different experiences on here. Obviously, that's quite normal for everyone to have a different experience. But I'm seeing some heartening ones and some that, this one here, I can relate to this. I learned growing up that it was okay to make fun of different people, and I did. I'm not proud of that, especially being in the community. Is there anything that anyone would like to share on this topic? You don't have to, just it's your chance if you'd like to share. But you can kind of see what other people have said.
I'll share a little something.
Yes, please.
Thanks. I'm nearly 50, and when I was growing up, I was always taught that everybody bleeds the same, and what's on the outside doesn't matter. But as I've grown older, I've learned to gain more respect and understanding for the outer expressions of people's identities, and not just lumping them in with everybody else.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think I see that theme here as well in the statements you so kindly have shared. Yes, please.
So I'm pushing 60. So growing up in the late 70s, 80s, there was a lot of contradiction. So in the household, don't be a fag. But yet, oh look, Boy George is on TV. It was ridiculous. And when I joined the military, having that drilled into you was excruciating. But again, just going back to the childhood, and every time there was any depiction of anything that was gay, it was always an adult pursuing a younger person. So that negative. And the church condoned this, because if we didn't talk about it, it didn't happen. So growing up in that environment was extremely confusing and frustrating.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else before we move along? I thank everyone for, I know it takes a lot to share some of these stories and put it up on the board, but thank you so much. So before we get too far along, I don't want to assume that everybody knows what LGBTQ even means. I know most folks that I run into, they say LBQ whatever. But hopefully when you leave here today, that won't be the case. So I'll just run down quickly what they are. The L is for lesbian, G is for gay, T is for trans, Q is for questioning or queer. The plus on the end there includes all the other identities. Sometimes you'll see something that says 2S, LGBTQIA plus. Kind of depends on where you're at. But if you see the 2S, that's a term, Two-Spirit. It's a term that was used within some indigenous cultures that they created for themselves.
Actually, they created that for the white colonial construct, not for themselves.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for correcting. Yes. The I be for intersex. That's just an umbrella term for somebody who has both characteristics, sexual characteristics. A is asexual. That's somebody who has a lack of sexual attraction to other folks, with low or just absent completely or no desire for sexual attraction. So we hit the big ones. There's many more letters, but these are the most common ones. So now we've all seen what LGBTQ plus is. Another QR code, that must mean some sort of group participation thing that's coming up. All right, are we ready? Everyone have their phones ready? Oh no.
I didn't even have a chance to read it.
Yeah, I put a timer on it to keep us moving along.
That's okay.
Essentially, it's just a knowledge check to see how comfortable you are with matching those 4 terms up. Who do we get? Who's the smiley face?
Someone who's a fast reader.
Yeah.
There was a lot to read.
Does anyone claim that? Posted anonymously? No? Okay, we'll figure out who you are. This honestly doesn't tell me. I know some systems are like, it's anonymous. Like, no, I used to work in IT. I know that's not true.
You're all in the top 4. Good job.
All right, so hopefully one of the reasons you're here is to learn some things, some of the things that LGBTQ veterans have experienced. And when we look at this, we see that no 2 journeys are the same. Don't do that. Don't touch the screen. It's not a good thing. Let me stand over here. No, you can't hear me in the microphone. So no 2 journeys are the same, but we often see some similarities, like thematic similarities. But usually you're not going to see the exact same paths. So with that, many LGBTQ veterans, they are carrying with them, they have trauma with them that has absolutely nothing to do with their military service, but rather it's rooted either in homophobia or transphobia. And hearing about their experiences, hopefully this will help you better understand why that veteran may be reticent to reach out to you, why they may not want to reach out for help. I'm going to read a couple of excerpts to you. These are things that I struggle to get through these because it's not a good thing. You know, when people say, you can't make this stuff up. These are things I haven't had to make up. These are things that I have way more than this. When I briefed my assistant director, I gave him a stack that thick of emails that I have from people like this. So I will do my best. I always struggle with it, and I'm supposed to be strong, and I'm in charge up here, but the very first one that I had that broke me, I was helping somebody, and they said, thank you. I was this close to becoming a statistic. And when you hear that when you're working with a veteran, it's like a punch in the face. Oh, jeez. The next one, I apologize if you heard this one. I read this one a lot, and I've shortened it. But it says, I was an honor graduate. When I got to my permanent base in California, my roommate took my diary into the military authorities. An invasive investigation into me being gay was launched. I was kicked out with less than a year of service, and I've never been able to access any veterans' benefits. I received an honorable discharge. I tried to access benefits once, and the Veterans Affairs Office laughed at me and said they had real veterans to deal with. It was a super traumatic experience. And then this last one. I was kicked out after serving 2.5 years for admission of homosexuality. I received an honorable discharge. Since then, I've had a lot of anxiety and depression. Could I possibly be entitled to VA disability for my anxiety and depression? I've gone to counseling off and on for years. I've always felt like I wasn't good enough for anything or anybody. Damn it. Sorry. Anyways, thank you for your time. That's just a very small sample of the stuff that comes through the door. And there's a lot of trauma there. Oh, I guess I was supposed to move forward. So as LGBTQ individuals, the sheer weight of hiding our true selves weighs heavily on our hearts and minds. The weight is compounded by fear and discrimination, rejection, and even violence that can affect our mental and emotional well-being. Whether in military service or even in civilian life, the need to conceal one's identity to conform to societal norms exacts a toll, and that toll extends far beyond personal discomfort. I see some folks writing, and that's fine, but these slides will be available to you. So your hand doesn't get all tired out. And because of this, many LGBTQ veterans have that additional trauma. Overall, that LGBTQ population is, as you can see here, they're overrepresented, or they're underrepresented in support networks and overrepresented in risk populations. In general, those identifying as LGBTQ tend to experience higher levels of isolation, depression, anxiety, fear of being outed, stress, certain mental health conditions, substance abuse disorders, anxiety, depression. LGBTQ veterans may have difficulty accessing resources due to their bad paper discharges, or because they're dealing with the stigma of how the LGBTQ identity, historically, that's been treated or equated with mental illness. And studies have shown that almost 15% of LGBTQ veterans attempt suicide. And while transgender adults serve in the military at 2 to 3 times the rate of the general population, they die by suicide at a rate twice the rate of their cisgender peers, and nearly 6 times the rate of the general population. In addition, the National Transgender Discrimination Survey found that about 41% of trans and gender nonconforming veterans reported attempting suicide, compared to 1.6% of the general population. And LGBTQ veterans may not feel that their service was valued, or that they just may not be welcome in certain spaces. Since World War II, as many as 100,000 members of the United States military have been discharged, many with dishonorable or less than honorable discharges due to their sexual orientation. Between 80 and 90, an average of 1,500 military service members were discharged annually because of sexual orientation. In '93, when they signed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, they put it into place, but they still kicked out more than 14,000 people. So, yeah. Despite those changing policies and intentional outreach to holding those Don't Ask, Don't Tell discharges, most folks have not returned to have their discharges upgraded. The Pentagon told NPR in March of 2023 that only about, I think, 1,375 or so veterans have had their discharges upgraded. I think that's just over 1%. So, yes, please.
Are they allowed to do that? I mean, that's a thing now, but if they got kicked out of those conditions.
Yes.
Awesome.
They can do the discharge upgrade. The unfortunate part is it's not automatic, and even once you get the discharge upgrade, or the process takes, if you were in the last session, it could take 8.
But at least there's a process.
There is,
That's
yes.
what
Yeah.
Yeah, under the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, for me, I carry a lot of trauma because I was on the team that came up with that policy. And to see what it became was not what we had fought for. But I did a conference, actually I was in your position in 2019, leading a conference on that particular policy. And I was very humbled by the number of attendees who were victims of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. And when the time was that they could have that overturned and made into an honorable discharge, not a single person in that room was willing to step forward because of the traumatic experience they went through. Many of them were actually victims of sexual assault, which is what outed them, because they came forward. And one in particular, I just remember his story, against his supervisor's advice, he confronted his attacker. He got dishonorably discharged. His attacker was promoted and moved to another ship.
And that's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that from other veterans that when they report, they're the ones who are kicked out, or they're the ones that face discipline. With this slide, the point is basically just policies have changed over the years, and it's not always been advantageous to LGBTQ populations. Basically, over time, they've either been banned or don't ask, don't tell, or some type of policy. Same with trans folks. It's been bumpy as well. There's been different policies, either outright bans or just kind of not allowed but ignored, but it has not been fabulous. The point of this is that these are the laws that veterans have been under. And people often equate law with morally correct. And you can see the experiences may impact why they've been told certain things, so they may not have that degree of trust with anyone who represents government. So not only have past policies meant that folks couldn't serve authentically, but it meant that they had bad people discharges, and I think most of us already know that because that's our bread and butter, what we do most of the time. So some of these, what are the impacts that affect service members? So some of these are no-brainers, but the fear of being outed. I mean, there's always a chance that somebody's going to find out. Just that story, a person, they were the honor graduate, and they were found out someone stole their diary. The next to institutional power, you're basically useless, or not useless, you're basically powerless against the system that has total control of your life. There's higher levels of MSTs. There's gender orientation that with transphobia or gender orientation that's been criminalized by law. Social isolation, the fear of mistrust of others that can lead to increased social isolation. So not a lot of great stuff. With families, they've not always been recognized by the Department of Defense. Changing laws and a lack of federal protections for families meant added anxieties. Many service members struggled with the ability to form and maintain relationships due to undue hardships inflicted basically by trying to hide yourself due to those anti-LGBTQ policies. So again, not fabulous. Folks that we're currently serving, today military service is open to most gender and sexual identities. As of 2021, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and binary trans folks. They've been able to serve openly. The folks that cannot serve openly now, because we have a binary military, is gender non-conforming or non-binary folks. You gotta pick a team, one or the other. And I think we all know that that's not always the case. Yes.
How does that affect intersex folks?
I don't know the law on it. That one I don't know, I'm sorry. If you make a question, I can go look up what the answer is. So some more things with microaggressions. LGBTQ veterans, they can face subtle but harmful slights, insults, bias in their care, their workplaces, society. Those microaggressions, they can be subtle or unintentional, but they're against a marginalized group. In this case, note that micro does not mean insignificant. Instead, it signals that it's an interpersonal versus a macro, which is the systemic level. I didn't know that actually until I started learning about it, but that's what a microaggression is. So some examples of that, when someone says, "Oh my God, you look so good for a trans person," And while they probably intended it as a compliment, your perception of is that trans people don't often look good. So instead, you can try different statements or different compliments. Another common one is, "Oh, have you heard the surgery?" That's asking for overly personal information. And it also incorrectly suggests that there's only one surgery that's available, and that all trans people want, need, and have access to it. Instead, ask yourself before you ask a question like that, is this information you truly need? Is this a topic of conversation with your trans friends, your peers, and your loved ones? Is that really something you know? Another common one, like say you have a lesbian couple, "Oh, which one of you is the man?" That one's quite common. The other one, which is also very common, and most folks don't think about it, but when they do introductions in a room, they say, "Ladies and gentlemen," and then if you're in a group that is highly queer, half the group is like, "What the heck, what about us? We are neither ladies nor gentlemen. What about the non-binary folks?" And violence, there's increased violence with often little or no accountability. Marginalization, they experience marginalization in trying to access traditional VSO or access their benefits, and discrimination. They experience discrimination in care, veteran spaces, civilian spaces, society as a whole, you name it. You get a discrimination, you get it everywhere. With economics, trans vets are twice as likely to be unemployed. 22% of LGBTQ population lives in poverty. 1 in 3 for housing, 1 in 3 trans vets experience homelessness. LGBTQ people are 15% less likely to own a home. For food, LGBTQ veterans are twice as likely to use SNAP. That's most folks call it food stamps from the old times. With criminal justice, trans vets are twice as likely to be involved in the justice system. Suicide ideations are 2 to 3 times higher, and attempts are 2 to 7 times higher. And with health access issues, there's inconsistent care and mistrust. So to wrap these up, hopefully I've shown that there's a lot of trauma out there and decades of policies that have been against LGBTQ people, and those things simply can't be done overnight or undone overnight. And what hopefully you'll see is those lived experiences have shaped, those lived experiences have shaped how the LGBTQ individual perceives the world. Uh-oh, another code. Read fast. Are you ready? You may be asked to leave if you get this wrong. If anybody is done, if you would like to make a comment to remove the timing, I just now realize that even though we're in a time crunch, it's probably not a great thing for those that have reading disabilities or something like that. So. All right, everybody got it right. Yay. We still have our unknown leader. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit, and we're gonna move over to my program. So you've heard, I've talked about a lot of issues that LGBTQ folks have experienced, and guess who else recognize this? Our legislature. So they passed a law that says the legislature declares that veterans must be able to access and receive benefits and services that they have earned in service to our country without regard to sexual orientation or gender identity. This legislation further declares that connecting LGBTQ veterans to their earned and related benefits and to programs, resources, information is for the economic security and financial stability of veterans and their spouses and dependents. So yes, they decided we need to address this. And who are we talking about that they're addressing? So that's the latest stat I had, about 533,000 veterans. I use the Gallup poll that comes out every year. I think it's reasonable to use that as a number for general population, but the last one was 7.6%. The US population identifies as LGBT. If you extrapolate that to our veteran population, that is 40,000. That's not an insignificant number of folks. What I like folks to remember about that number is that it's not, we tend to think of LGBTQ folks as being, what's the latest, millennials, and there's probably one after that, Zennials. But we tend to think of that as a modern problem, but I guarantee you it exists across all generations. As a matter of fact, I'm on the board of a group called Tacoma Older LGBT because the older LGBT folks exist. Matter of fact, it's been so rare that I believe I was considered a trans elder, like in my late 40s, just because of life expectancies and rough life and things like that. You're like, really? An elder already? No. Get out of here with that mess. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip this, and folks have probably already seen it's available on the website. And it's an old video, and I don't like it. It has my old nose.
I love the honesty.
So this is the part where you get to learn a little bit about me, a trans person, so you can say, yes, I have met somebody. And hopefully just to give you an N of one, an understanding a little bit. So if you back up with me, imagine you're 5 years old and you figured out that you're different. 5 years old. Remember I said we're going to come back to 5 years old? That's about the time we figured out I'm different. Now imagine you see your uncle and your dad and you overhear them talking about the fruity little boy in the backyard playing with the stroller and dolls. In that case, they weren't talking about me, but they were talking about my cousin. If you've heard that saying, be careful who you hate, it might just be somebody you love. Kind of that circumstance here. So they were making fun of my cousin. Then imagine that your parents' favorite TV show is something called Bosom Buddies. For the older folks, the younger folks in the room, that was was it Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, Peter Scolari, maybe. But they dressed up as women. They weren't trans. They just dressed up as women to live in an apartment building. But they were the butt of jokes, and it was comical. You know, everything they were just the butt of jokes. Probably funny at the time, but not so funny if you don't know what your issue is, and you just see people being made fun of. So that was just to give you a broad idea, just an early foundation that the things you see, things I saw, it pushed me to hide, like really hide, stay in the closet to the point where Mom's like, well, I never knew. That's the point, Mom. So the overall environment growing up wasn't quite so understanding or inclusive. It was also the time, and I apologize if you heard this before, but it was the time of the card catalog, the Stone Ages. So imagine going to the library as a child. There is no card in the card catalog for what's wrong with me. Why am I different? Those are not entries that you're going to find. There was no computer. You had to go, for the younger folks, that was a system. There was no computer in the library. You had to go up to these big things. You rolled out this cabinet, and you had to look through these paper 3x5 cards to find the book that you wanted. That it was not a great system. Apologies to any librarians who are like, that was a great system. So that caused me just to keep my head down and to join the Army, because what would the Army do? The Army would make a man out of me. We can see how well that went. So I just stayed silent, terrified that someone would find out who the real me. And if you fast forward a whole lot of years, like 3, maybe more than that, maybe 30 or 40, came to Washington and met allies, friends, all sorts of goodness. I saw programs that represent the LGBT community within the state that allow you to bring your whole self to work, that encourage it, and it's backed by the governor. I was able to put down roots, build community, met people, learned organizations that could help me navigate who I was and how I was feeling. I didn't get to do that throughout my career because, if you're in the military, you're always moving. You can't put down those roots. You're always on the go. There's training, missions, deployments, all that stuff. And then when I did get here, if I did go out with friends, like Seattle has a very vibrant life on Cap Hill. When you go out, you don't want to go home, because going home means you have to become a different person. Because when I would go out, I got to be me, but when I go home, I had to be somebody else. And then don't even get me started on Sunday nights, because there became a point, gosh darn it, there became a point where I was out everywhere but work. So imagine you're out everywhere but work, and Sunday night comes up and you have to think about the next day and shift gears and think about becoming a different person the next day. It puts a lot of stress on you. So let's get back on track with work. About me, I'm an Army veteran, retired in 2015, actually started as a private. I did the Green and Gold program, got to go to Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, and I used to do cybersecurity. I used to run cybersecurity incident response for the state of Washington. I worked for the Homeland Security Advisor. But one day I saw this job announced, and I knew I wanted to do something in this field. Even if I didn't get the job, I had to apply for it. Luckily, I was able to get the job, and it's just been fantastic since then. It gives me an opportunity now to be a beacon for other folks and help them. We want to help them gain access. Like with some of those letters, you wouldn't believe the number of times I've held on to my paperwork. I think you can help me. So this is the program authorized by state law. It's RCW 4360A.240. There's be a quiz on that, so make sure you know it. There's also, if you've heard about the federal government, they have veteran care coordinators at every facility, LGBTQ veteran care coordinators. They tend to focus on the clinical side and providing those clinical aspects to veterans, whereas I work on the other side with benefits. We work together all the time. I work with my partner, Bridget Raposa. She's in Seattle. We do all of our outreach events together, but we do different things, but we work hand in hand and we pass off veterans back and forth. So I just try to lower the bar to accessing benefits. How do I do that? I'm an accredited service officer. I do training material like this. I can come to your organization and put on a presentation like this, except it's about 3 hours long. And yes, I need to talk faster. Then I do partnership development and outreach events. So during the summer, I want to say I work nonstop, but every weekend I'm at a Pride event somewhere. I actually came to Spokane Pride this year. I went to Walla Walla, Spokane, Bellingham, Portland. And you say, why Portland? Because the federal VAs are regional and we pass veterans back and forth. So I need to learn the folks down there, and they need to learn about me because we pass veterans back and forth to each other. This is just a slide, some of the things. This was one summer. A lot of stuff on there, a lot of outreach events, a lot of fun stuff. Oh dear. Here we go. All right. And still see people logging in. Okay. Okay, no faster answers, take your time. Need some music, Jeopardy music or something. Oh, yay!
You know what the music AHA slides provides.
No!
Teachers use this and it's all cartoony.
Oh, dear. All right, yay, everyone got that one. Thank you. And, oh, so Mackenzie, where's Mackenzie at? There you go. Mackenzie's catching up to our unknown person. All right, so now we're going to shift gears again. This is the part that people usually like more than the other stuff, because it's the inclusive practices, the definitions, the cultural competencies. I talked previously a lot about the experiences of LGBTQ veterans. So hopefully now you have a good idea of what they've been through. But as with many things, it's just some, but not everything. So the next part, we'll talk about some of the vocabulary, some etiquette, inclusive practices, some stupid things that people say, and how you can, the reason I put those kinds of things in here is so that you're aware when you're dealing with the population of what the LGBTQ folks go through, what kind of questions they get, and why they may look at you crazy when you ask certain things. With this, as we go through this, remember language changes over time. And not everything applies to everyone. We can't say, I mean, everyone's unique. What I try to teach with this program, I borrowed it from a lot of the material, and I forget the name of the group, but they kind of go with the 51% rule, so if 51% of the population, I know there's somebody out there who's gonna say, I don't like to be called that. Got it. Understand? It's kind of the, with autism first, people first, versus half the group says, no, I'm an autistic person, and the other half says, no, I'm a person with autism. So you just know your audience. So I'm often asked, what can I do better to serve LGBTQ folks? And hopefully with what we cover here, it'll give you a pretty good idea. I think the most important thing is just do your best. A hint, that's gonna come up again. Just do your best. I put this in, there's a reason I put this in. Does everyone see these radical ideas that are on the screen here? What's the point of this? LGBTQ folks are just regular folks. That's it. I lived with my partner in Kirkland for a while, and we rented the house. And when we did the move out, the landlord, someone, I think he was from Montana or something, but he said, are you folks still, some of them, what did he say? He used a term that we don't use anymore, not transgender, transsexuals. And he's like, you know what? Y'all are just regular people just trying to get by. And we're like, whoa, where did you figure that out? We didn't say that, but the point of this is just regular folks trying to get by. Or maybe I haven't been invited to the agenda club, but I don't know of any radical agendas. It's just regular folks trying to get by. Another one. Yay. The point of that one, the last one is there are many ways to do things. Just check in with folks. See what terms they like, what they don't like. I once worked with an individual, he was a black gentleman, and he didn't like to be called gay. He used men loving men, because what comes into your head when you think of a gay person in wider population, oftentimes the first thing that pops into a lot of people's heads is the white dude. There's kind of a stereotype, and that was something they didn't embrace, and they didn't want to be a part of that. So just check in with your crowd. There's also that group I told you about that I'm on the board, that they call themselves LGBT. They don't use Q. They don't use queer because they're an older group. And I say that because I'm the youngest of the group. Most of them are 70 or so. But when they grew up, queer was an insult. Queer was something that they don't feel comfortable calling other people, whereas the current generation has reappropriated the term and generally proudly says, yes, I'm queer, that's me. But if I say that to one of the groups, like, oh, you're queer, and then they would be offended because that's not a term that they grew up, that was something that was inappropriate for them. So just check in with your audience. Ooh, okay, so catching up. All right, now is the time for you to grab your little sheet. You have a piece of paper that looks like this. If you are missing a sticker, I have some extras up here. If you notice that one is missing, I know somebody's missing a sheet or a sticker. Because I have one extra up here. So this is the first time I've done this in a large group. I do it in smaller groups because it's easier to sit with somebody, but the point is here we're just going to build a little muscle memory with you putting a sticker on the paper. If you would like to try and match them all to yourself right now, that's fine. Actually, let's do it that way. If you don't want to put the stickers on, if you just want to lay them, I have the answer key next. If you want to see how close you get. If you don't know any of them, that's absolutely fine. There's no points or anything. Nobody's going to know which ones you get correct. We'll take a few minutes. While you're doing this, you can just listen. If you notice, we have an umbrella there, and at the top of the umbrella, we have queer, which serves as sort of the roof over the L, the G, the B, and the T. On the side with LGB, you see the umbrella handle there. You notice that's separating something. The L, the G, and the B, those are considered sexualities. So lesbian, gay, bisexual, that has to do with your attraction to people. If you look at the other side, trans, that deals with gender. Gender and sexuality are not the same thing. So we have that umbrella there separating the two. The line below and those flags below that umbrella have absolutely nothing to do with the umbrella. They just, I wanted to put everything on one piece of paper. And these are not all of the flags. These are some of the most common flags. And if you don't know which pronouns or neopronouns, that's okay. We're going to cover that later. This is just, everyone likes stickers, so. And if you want stickers to take with you, I have more up here. I use them for outreach, so you're more than welcome to come on up and grab some. If you're not sure, look up. Did anyone get all of them? Yay. I have to say I don't always get the ones on the bottom. I got called out by she was autistic, but she called me out because I had the pansexual flag upside down. Oops. I didn't have them all memorized on which one goes where. So with this is something you can take with you. You can see the flags, visual, what they mean. Like I said before, the ones at the top are the most common. And then the ones below are definitely common. And there are, I don't know how many flags there are totally. There are different ones. And then down at the bottom, we have pronouns, which we'll cover pronouns a little later. You might have an extra one because sometimes the stickers, yeah, that's the same sticker. They just stuck together.
I'll do that.
Awesome.
My kids are going to steal these. I encourage it.
Yes.
Is a color challenged person
Must be bisexual.
Not that, I'm having trouble.
Oh,
differentiating
seeing.
colors.
Oh, okay.
But
This
I-
one goes this way.
Okay,
And this one.
thank you, but I didn't know what they meant either.
I didn't think about that. How does that with the different flags if you're partially colorblind or colorblind?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, and I can see color, I just don't see it very well. Like, I have a limited range, so I'm looking at these and I can't tell.
I have trouble with pinks.
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference between those pinks.
Like brown, green, a lot of people like the, the bright green color line is common. Camouflage works really well for me. You might as well be invisible.
That's the funniest thing. I couldn't see pinks. I would wear a pink shirt and a pink bottom, and I would think they would match. I'd show up and people would
I'm
look at
going
me
to
like
move
I
to
was
the next slide, but I have the answer key up here. And you should, I think I made the settings so that on your phone, you can go to any slide you want. So you can go back to the slide if you want and see the answers. I'm going to move to the next one. Does anyone have heartburn with that?
picture.
We call it asset reflex now.
I get this question a lot, and I myself in the community struggle with this. We have multi-sexualities. People will say, well, what's the difference between bisexual and polysexual and pansexual and omnisexual? This is a chart that I still use because I still forget which is which. And for those that say, why are there so many different, this is ridiculous, why is this is so different?
It's complex.
Yes, it's complex, and as we learn more about ourselves, we have to find ways to express what we're feeling or how we feel, which is why you see so many different variations. It's not one size fits all. So hopefully folks don't get upset when they see like, well, what's the difference between bi and poly? I think my daughter calls poly spicy bi.
I'm texting that to my friend. Just to let you know.
But this is a good chart, just if you're curious about whether or not they have they prefer one gender, two gender, all genders. Usually the difference is whether you just don't care. You're just like, you know what? It's all about the person. Bring on the person. I really don't care what you have, what equipment you have, who you are. I'm really into the person. These are more flags. The reason I did this one is so you can see the progression of the pride flag. So you see the standard pride flag there. And then in 2018, we added some inclusivity. We have black and brown for black and brown folks, and then we have trans added to it as well. And the next one, I don't know if anyone here saw the flag raising ceremony for the state. So our governor puts the pride flag up at the Capitol, which is absolutely phenomenal. But if you see the little circle there, that's the next iteration. It's the intersect, the little O there is for intersex. So when someone says pride flag, we kind of use them all interchangeably, but that one pride flag in the middle is the progress pride flag. That's probably the most common right now, but more folks are starting to use the intersex progress pride flag. Some of the ones at the bottom, you'll see there's an ally flag and a two-spirit flag. And I didn't get it on here because I didn't have it, but I have some, July is Disability Pride Month, and I have stickers for that as well. Gender unicorn. So this one, the point of this slide is to show you the difference between identity, expression, assigned at birth, who you're physically attracted to, who you're romantically attracted to. So your gender identity, that's your own internal sense of whether male, female, neither, both, or somewhere up there. We try not to use the word spectrum. That used to be popular to say gender is a spectrum. Remember we talked about language changing. But when you say spectrum, spectrum implies that there's 2 points that are good, and you have to be somewhere in the middle. The latest that I've heard is we kind of just think of it as like space. You can be anywhere in space. There are no 2 correct points. You could be anywhere up there. And gender expression, that's just the physical manifestation of your gender identity through your clothing, your hairstyle, voice, body, all that stuff. A lot of trans folks tend to seek to make their gender expression match their gender identity rather than their sex assigned at birth. Sex assigned at birth, the easiest way to think of that. One question?
One question.
Yes, I'm sorry. Going back to the flag slide, is that just in the United States or is that worldwide? Are the flags worldwide?
Yes, these are universal.
Universal. Okay, great. Thank you.
One more question after Robbie.
Again, on that last slide, there's lower row, demisexual. That's a new term for me.
That is, I believe, if I remember, that is somebody who needs to become romantically attracted to somebody before they become sexually attracted before them.
Emotionally attracted?
Pardon?
Emotionally attracted before sexually attracted is my understanding.
Okay, yeah. The idea is that some people see somebody and they're like, woo, yeah, I'm gonna get with that. Some people have to form a relationship first before they get to that point. And if my memory is correct, that's demisexual.
Thank you both.
Let's see. Sex assigned at birth, the easiest way to think about that is the doctor looks at you when you're born and says, congrats, you're a girl. And you're stuck with that the rest of your life, despite anything else. Let's see. Physically attracted to, so that's your sexual orientation, and then emotionally attracted to, that's your romantic or emotional orientation. We're often socialized to oversimplify all of this because it's easier to do it that way. And we think that once we know one thing about somebody, we can fill in the blanks on the rest of them. So for example, if we know somebody's a woman, we have a picture in our mind of who she looks like, who she's attracted to. We might assume she expresses her gender in a feminine way. She's assigned female at birth, embodies femaleness, feminine ways, and is exclusively attracted to men. But that is quite simply not the truth, and it's not that way for everybody. That's not true, and it's obviously not complicated enough for most of us. Many of us exist in different degrees on scales above that, or ones that zigzag, or that break up assumptions and norms. And hey, if cisgender folks can mix it up, why can't others? I've used that term a couple times now, and I don't think I've explained it. A lot of times folks think that's a slander or a slur. All cis means is same. So if you call somebody cisgender, it just means they feel that they're the same as the gender they were assigned at birth, whereas trans is a cross, or you're different than the sex you were assigned at birth. So when you say somebody is cisgender, all you're saying is they feel the same way that they were assigned at birth. That's it. There's no ill will or ill intention. And what I really want to highlight here is that identity does not equal expression, does not equal sex, does not equal gender, and does not equal sexual orientation. Those are all individual, unique things. So this model is just one that shows how complicated gender and sexuality can be. It's not the ideal world that we would perhaps want to live in. And my hope is that this was just a good step to give you an understanding towards things like this. Actually, I had a little video. Let's see if this works. Say you have a picture in your head of a mountain man. Remember before we talked about having an idea in your head of what, when we say woman, think of a mountain man. Come on, you could do it. There it is. So, everyone see this guy?
Mm-hmm.
That I realized I had to start transitioning. I think as queer people, it's not just coming out. There's so many other first times for us. I think it's such a beautiful experience to finally be in an age where we finally have access to this ability to engage in.
Because, oh, stop! It keeps muting it. And now we're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
It did show like a moment of
there.
Up as a girl, people always ask